Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I call to order the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners business meeting this October 23rd, 2014. I'll ask Mr. Krupp, our County Administrator, to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. Good morning. We are joined this morning with Mr. Stephen Madcore, County Counsel, and we are also joined with Mary Rathke, Clerk of the Board. So let me start the roll. Mr. Commissioner Jim Bernard.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Chair Ludlow.
Here, I just announced that Martha Schroeder is excused for a family medical emergency. Will you all please rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, Mr. Krupp, we have a couple presentations.
We certainly do, and I just kind of wanted to point out that I am wearing a pink shirt this morning, and as I am noticing that each of you is wearing pink. Of course, this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and as is our tradition, we have scheduled for you this morning a presentation on cancer awareness and local priorities, and I'm going to ask Dana Lord from our Department of Health, Housing, and Human Services to give you a presentation on cancer awareness.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a little cold, so my voice may not be as attractive as always, but I did the public health thing, and I stayed home for 2 days this week, I want you to know, and I have sanitized my hands. Chair Ludlow, Commissioners, as you're well aware, this month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. If you've watched an NFL game this month, you've seen the pink shoes and the other accessories in pink, and I see Commissioner Smith's in pink today. It also is a time where we can take a look and think about other cancer, and I think that's the benefit of this month. And so today I'm going to talk about some priorities in Oregon and also some statistics about Clackamas County. So I am a little technically challenged, maybe. The good news, overall deaths from cancer are down, but not all populations. The number of cancer survivors is increasing, and to put this in perspective, cancer is still the number 2 cause of death in the United States. We can do more. In Clackamas County, these are the trends. Incidence is the number, is how many people in our population have a disease, and mortality is how many people actually die in a certain period of time from that disease. Both the incidence and mortality are decreasing, which is a good thing. Breast, colorectal, and lung and prostate cancers are also on the downward trend. But an increasing trend, interestingly enough, in cloudy Oregon is melanoma, which is skin cancer. Also in Clackamas County, we've given you some statistics about the male and female cancer death rate. These are rates per 100,000 people. And if you notice that bronchus and lung and tracheal lung cancer is the highest for men, and prostate cancer is number 2. For women, also, trachea, bronchus and lung cancers are the number 1 cancer killers, and breast is number 2. What we're doing in Oregon to try to control cancer and what our priorities are risk reduction, prevention, early detection, treatment, and care. As you can tell, prevention with workplace wellness, some cancer screening, breast, cervical, and colorectal. In treatment, we have a great cancer centers here in Oregon. So there's a lot of clinical trials and research and funding that comes to Oregon about it. And survivorship, there's a lot more we're doing around care plans and living beyond the cancer diagnosis. A lot of survivors, which is a really good thing. Some more control priorities are based really on some of these colorectal cancer rates that we want to really focus that the screening is low. So we're encouraging people to get screened. The baseline is at 50, or if you have a history of colorectal cancer in your family earlier than that. HPV, that's human papillomavirus. We're increasing our vaccinations for children to prevent this virus, which causes cervical cancer. And melanoma, we're really looking at what are we doing for that priority. I think I just went through one slide, sorry. Oh, this is what the legislature has done in 2013 around cancer. We have taken action in Oregon. These were bills and policies that were passed and moved forward last year. We have restricted tanning beds to minors. We've increased reporting and eliminated some co-pays for colorectal screening. So, what are we doing at the local level? Our county health centers are increasing their colorectal cancer screening rates. That's a CCO initiative this year. And by 2018, 80% of those that need it should have it. In our school-based health centers and in our...
Hold on for just a second, there's an angry bird.
It's a fire alarm.
Oh, phooey.
Oh, it's that door.
Oh, it's just the
Oh,
door.
it's the alarm on the door.
So go ahead.
Okay, we can go ahead. It's not a fire alarm. Okay.
Yeah,
We
go ahead.
also, in the school-based health centers, we've increased our vaccination rates for HPV by providing those things in the school-based health centers. This is a slide that really brings it home for me, what we need to be doing and what we are doing in our county. The number, over half of all cancers are caused by preventable stuff. 33% are from tobacco use, 20% are from obesity and overweight status, 16% from the pathogens that we just talked about, the human papillomavirus. And then as you go down, even poor dietary habits, physical activity, and exposure to ultraviolet light are all preventable causes of cancer. This one really just brings it home for me. Oops. Here's some tobacco facts from 2013. It really just is another way to look at the numbers. We have 378,000 people living in Clackamas County, and 40,000 of those smoke regularly. That's about 14% of our population. Nationally, it's around 17%, so we're actually doing better. But still, when you look at what that does, 11,000 people are actually suffering now or in 2013 from a tobacco related cause, and 582 people actually died from tobacco as the primary cause of death, and primary, secondary. We now on our death certificates get that information. If it was a cause of death, then it's on the death certificate. And look at the cost, what we spend on medical care and what productivity we lose from it. So here are some of the things we're doing in Clackamas County for prevention. We promote some smoke-free environments and communities by working with our tobacco staff, with cities, towns, systems. And we're encouraging, of course, people to quit smoking with the Quit line. I think really what's important is some of these emerging tobacco products, and I know the board's aware of these. We've talked about them a little before. But there's a huge marketing, aggressive marketing in our retail stores towards youth around tobacco products. They're making them pretty and they're making them taste good, and the smokeless tobacco are unregulated at this point. And we're working in this state to look at that in the next session of the legislature. You're aware of the Healthy Eating Active Living grants that we provide here in Clackamas County through Public Health. This is what we've been doing over the last 3 years. The numbers for our fourth year will be at the end of this year, and we're turning around and offering another grant cycle next year, and I'll have more information about that on the last slide. The grants will continue being offered for 2015. The new applications for community-based projects that increase access to healthy foods and physical activity are being accepted currently. The submission deadline for 2015 HEAL grants is November 18th. And there's how you apply, right there on our website. In summary, 53% of cancers can be reduced by increasing physical activity and tobacco prevention activities. Your continued support of HEAL funding allows Clackamas County to contribute to these outcomes, and state and local policies that address tobacco regulation and worksite wellness influence cancer reduction in our community. I thank you for asking for this presentation today. I think it will be helpful for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Well done. I want to point it out how you must have done a great job to get a round of applause in this group. Mr. Krupp.
All right, well, our second presentation of the morning is from our very esteemed county assessor, Mr. Bob Vroman, and he's going to talk about an exhilarating and exciting subject known as property taxes. And so I'm going to invite Mr. Vroman on up to the dais to share with us the latest and greatest.
Think about when you tell us we're going to have more money, that makes us happy. When you tell the people they got to pay more money, it's the adverse effect, is it not?
Thank you. My name is Bob Vroman. I'm your Clackamas County Assessor. Chair Ludlow, Commissioners, again, thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning and update you on our 2014-15 property tax roll. I know you have a busy schedule. I promised I was going to be pretty brief, but I think that there are things that you will be interested in knowing. Probably what stands out most this year is that taxing districts in general will benefit, and property owners to an extent, from a continually improving real estate market. Total real market value in Clackamas County this year from all property, which includes new construction, went from $45.9 billion in value to $51 billion, a 11.1% increase. Our taxable assessed value went from $40.4 billion to $42.3 billion, an increase of 4.8%, which means that the county in general and taxing districts on the whole are going to benefit this year from some increase in revenue from what they've seen in prior years. Our total tax roll for Clackamas County grew from $649 million. This is total imposed taxes for all property, went from $649 million to $684 million, an increase of 5.48%. Now, tax grows for a number of reasons. The amount of tax that we impose grows because we have new construction that goes on in the county. We have businesses and companies that locate and bring property into the county. We have a statutory growth in our assessed value as a result of our property tax system. And this year, probably more pronounced, and again, something that stands out a little bit more, is that with increasing values, we have less compression or less dollars that will be lost or not collected as a result of exceeding Measure 5's limits. Measure 5 was our first constitutional property tax limitation. And the amount of compression that we had last year was about $20.1 million. This year, that's dropped to about 13.7. So what that really translates is that translates into more dollars for taxing districts, and primarily the education category districts benefit from that. And it will translate also into some increased tax that property owners will see because they will have less savings as a result of Measure 5 limits. So if I could have Mary's help for just a moment, she's going to go to our website here, and there are just a few things that I want to point out If she would click on tax statement information, what you'll see is a whole lot of information. I know it looks a little busy here, but this is a copy of the insert. So it involves several pages that we send out with every property tax statement. And there are a number of things that I'd like to just point out. This is the first page. It explains that we do have real market values rising. It talks a little bit about how our property tax system works, how Measure 5 compression works. But really what I want to point out here is that it has a listing of our town hall schedule. And one of the things that I think the county supports in general is actually reaching out to our citizens and going out and talking about the issues that impact them. And we're going to do that at the assessor's office. We do that every year. Actually, my town halls have started already. I did Oregon City earlier this week, Canby last night, and I'll be out in Chair Ludlow's area in Wilsonville tonight. So we have a very busy schedule. The remaining town halls are listed on our website. And another thing that I think is important to point out here is that our payment due date for property taxes is typically November 15th. Because that falls on a weekend this year, it gets extended to November 17th. But that's always kind of an unusual week because that week in November, we also observe Veterans Day. And so the county's not typically open, and the assessor's office is not typically open on Fridays. But that week, we will be opening on Friday so that we can answer questions and accept payments. It's usually one of the busiest weeks that we have throughout the year, and I just want to take every opportunity to let people know that we will be here that Friday, even though the due date isn't going to be the following Monday. We don't want people to miss an opportunity to make a payment and enjoy a discount if they're paying in full. If Mary could slide over to the next page, there is a lot of information on the payment due dates and payment options. There is information on being able to pay your taxes online, and also your appeal rights if you think that we don't have your value correct. And I always encourage people, if they have questions about the values that they see on their statement, to please contact our office. I also find that you'll see the big dollar bill there. People like to know where their tax dollars are going. And one of the things that I always find, or a lot of times I'll receive a question about what does the county do with all of that money that we collect. And I like to tell them right off from the beginning that the county doesn't get all that money. We collect it and we turn around and we send it out to the taxing districts that provide the service that they've said that they value. So the county certainly does get some of that revenue, but it's only a portion of it. If Mary can flip back to the front page, I want to touch on, in that second column, there's a little note at the very top that says, graph your Measure 50 value history. This is something that we've added this year on the county's website. If she can go back to our home page, you'll see that little house in blue up on the corner. If she'll just click on that, it brings up a search area where you can put in your account number for your property or an address, and when you search on it, brings up the parcel, click on the parcel, and it will bring up a history of your parcel's real market value and its maximum assessed value. And the lesser of those values will always be the assessed value that your taxes are calculated on. I get a lot of questions, and I'm sure that there are times when you get questions about how does our property tax system really work? We hear about real market value, we hear about maximum assessed value, and we hear about our assessed value, but it's all very confusing. And hopefully this will start to at least provide a beginning where people can go look very quickly and see what's happened with their real market value and what's happened with the maximum assessed value, and see where their property is actually having, at what value their taxes are being calculated on. And we hope to expand this in the future and maybe even include what the actual tax amounts are. Now, we've had this up on our website since we certified the tax roll, and we've mailed out almost 170,000 tax statements, and it's already proven to be pretty popular. So I certainly appreciate the support that we've gotten from the county commission. This is part of a revamped county website that we're trying to encourage our customers to take advantage of, because it has a lot of information that can be accessed very quickly and highlights payment options, online payments, property tax programs that are available to them. And again, we always encourage people, if they have any questions, to please contact our office, because we'll be happy to sit down with them and chat with them about their property and their taxes. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, I'd just like to say that having followed your predecessor around, Ray Erlin, usually with you in tow, it's been very impressive of the policy to come out to local communities and to explain such things as real market value versus assessed, compression, trends. And certainly, I think it's very germane to have mentioned that when people say the county is getting all this money, that dollar bill that was cut up, you didn't even see the county on there. We are other, that very small sliver. But your job is to collect. I think you told me that in some areas there's up to 100 plus special districts or taxing entities that you send money to. Is that correct?
Well, we have 133 taxing districts in Clackamas County, and we have a very interesting county, and I think that's probably why you're doing the jobs that you do, is because you love this county and you appreciate this county. And we're very different from our neighbors, both Multnomah and Washington, and we have a very diverse and varied citizenry that I think makes Clackamas County actually, in my mind, stand out in our area. And again, I have to add that my staff, I think, does a terrific job at trying to assist our customers and our citizens, and I really appreciate the fact that we've gotten and always received, both my predecessor and myself, very, very favorable support from our county commissioners.
I might also mention that we do an employee recognition lunch where we recognize people who have been here from in increments of 5, 10, 15, 20, up to 35 years. And some of your people have been there for a long time, so it must be a great place to work. Commissioner Savas.
Thank you. One thing I often get approached around this time of year is, and your dollar bill on the website here that people are looking at right now, it depicts that. But of course, on the property tax statement that they received in the mail in the last few days, they can see the listing of where those dollars go. And a couple of the questions I received recently is, what do some of those mean? Even though it's kind of coded, it's not clear on the statement, and I thought maybe there might be a opportunity to either have links to what goes to schools of that dollar, how those are defined, parks, miscellaneous, things like that. But that was a question because it's coded. You can only get so many characters in that short line. I understand that. So, but just wanted to pass on that comment that was made. I don't think some people understand that coding. What does urban renewal mean, for example? How does that play out? So I don't know if there's I haven't perused the website fully to see if there's better clarification as to that. But I just want to point out to people that are listening and watching at home that on their property tax statement that that breakdown of that dollar is depicted in those taxing districts.
That's great. Thank you, Commissioner Savas. And we'll take a look. We do have a limitation as the amount of room and space that we have actually on the tax statement. And we do have some areas on the website that actually list out our taxing districts. But I'll look at the potential to put kind of a legend out there that can maybe a little bit more easily, clearly explain what some of those abbreviations are. So we'll take a look at that.
Yeah, I know sometimes we get inundated with property measures or property tax measures or measures that come on the ballot when they're deciding, on voting day. But how that affects their taxes, and some people can put that cents per thousand into play. They can't calculate the compression, which is more complex, and we won't go there today. But those impacts as far as where their tax dollar goes. But I think there is that assumption when they write out that check that it's all going to the county.
Yeah.
So this helps clarify that.
Commissioner Bernard.
And then I tried out that graph on Measure 50 value history, put in my address, and it didn't work. So there might be an example on the side what address means. I tried my address and the city and the zip, and I wasn't able to get mine.
Actually, I think, Commissioner Bernard, if you look up on that note on that page, you'll see that manufactured structures, business personal property, public utilities, and real property that have special assessments aren't able to be depicted on that graph. And I think one of your
He's a farmer
properties
now, that's
has a
right,
special assessment, so that's why it's not going to show up.
That's nice to know.
But we're working on that. When you get special assessments, you have a number of other things that are going on with actually that maximum assessed value. So it gets a little complicated to show it graphically.
Well, okay, so a good example, property taxes come. How do I know I have a special assessment? Like, yeah, it's a farm, a ranch. But how do I know that? The realtor never told me I had a farm deferment or a deferral.
It said it on your closing statement, honestly. A real estate broker, on the earnest money agreement as well, is required by professionals to state whether the property, and in this case, the seller, states it is either in or out of special assessment. So it was there, and at closing, they tell you that there may be additional taxes levied unless you comply with the requirements to keep said assessed value or property special assessment in force and effect. So I'll help you later understand that.
And Chair Ludlow is correct, and typically our property tax statement will indicate a property that has a special assessment, and you'll also see a specially assessed value in the value portion.
The land portion.
Yeah, of your state. So,
Did you?
so
Well,
I'll have to look at your statement.
It's an advantage, so hang on to it, for sure. Well, Mr. Vroman, thank you very much. Like I say, having followed you guys along well before I ever got here, and when you reached out to Wilsonville, Oregon specifically, it was always a pleasure to see the presentation and the explanation to people that just needed further clarification, so well done.
Thank you, Chair, and we'll be out in your area tonight.
I can't wait. All right, it is time for citizens' communication, and we have some peeps here. So I'm going to start with two and then put two on deck. The first two are Marvin McElder. Oh, gee, John. Oh, yep, that's what it was. And Marianne Paradise, followed by Thelma Hagenmiller and Dave Adams.
Don't follow.
Sure, just ignore the chair and do what you want. That's right. Sure, whatever you want, absolutely.
Marvin and I are friends.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Marvin McEldowney, and I live at 15675 Southeast Cordova Court in Milwaukee, Oregon. I've been an elk for over 49 years, but I'm not representing the Elks here. I'm here to represent myself and a few of the Elks people. I want to say I want to apologize for reading this because I just wrote it out, and that's what's going to wait to keep it online. That's what I'm going to do. I want to state 5 points to support the need for a second access out to a signalized section.
Marvin, can you pull that up a little bit for us so we can hear you?
Okay, to give the lodge a second and safe access to a signalized intersection on McLaughlin Boulevard at any time of the day in any weather condition. The present access is acceptable during daylight hours and clear weather for most vehicles. However, it is problematic for cars, delivery trucks, and RVs when there is fog, heavy rain, snow, or ice, particularly after dark. One of the people here wanted me to mention that when the membership voted to sell to TriMet, we were to have that second access out to Park Avenue. And then when a lot of us went south and all, and then the negotiations, that went away. The traffic there is at times is pretty heavy right now, and it's going to increase around that TriMet parking facility. And once the rail's in operation, and as time goes on, it will not only be increased traffic due to light rail, but because of the improved road section and the increased residential density and additional commercial use that is sure to follow. Both the weather and traffic increase along with that third lane coming out of TriMet's parking structure, and it'll be merging into the 2 existing lanes there before it gets to the access there at the Milwaukee Elks driveway. And it will increase the danger for all folks using that approach. I and at least one other Elk member have one eye with central vision only, so we lack depth perception, making it difficult to judge the distance, particularly at night. Also, I'm sure there are several members and guests that have limited vision due to cataracts and other problems. These vision problems also make it difficult to tell in what lane the oncoming traffic is traveling, particularly during adverse weather. Access out to Park Avenue will provide safe ingress and egress to the Elks property for all during peak traffic hours, and particularly for those of us with impaired vision. In effect, this access would be like an insurance policy. It would help protect the Milwaukee Elks, its members, guests, and all the other agencies involved in presenting with the present project from potential lawsuits. And finally, if an access to Park Avenue saves one life, particularly mine, I will be forever grateful.
Thank you. Thelma?
Okay, now you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Thelma Hagen-Miller. I am a resident of the unincorporated area of North Clackamas County known as Oak Grove, and I am addressing you today in that capacity. I came before you on September 18th, 2014, regarding a safety concern I and many other people have expressed regarding the single access point to and from the property at 13121 Southeast Highway 99E, more widely known as McLaughlin Boulevard. The property is currently owned by the Milwaukee Elks Lodge number 2032. To begin with, I want to say thanks for your letter of support sent to Marianne Paradise on Monday, October 21st. Thanks for helping us challenge the assumptions that this is a closed issue. Marvin McEldowney and I have been dubbed the Don Quixotes chasing windmills on the secondary access issue, but we prefer to say we have chosen to be proactive rather than reactive regarding our safety concerns. I have with me sheets containing the signatures of over 140 people who are also concerned about the safety of this single access issue. Some of these people are in your audience today. I have chosen excuse me, I have chosen not to go into the extensive history that has gotten us to today, but to rather leave you with this quotation, which is chiseled in the wall of the west side of the light rail tunnel under the Oregon Zoo. It is a quote by William D. Robertson, Jr., whom I didn't know, 1947 to 1997 TriMet Board of Directors. The quote says, "The capacity to think, the courage to act, and the conscience to care." Thank you for truly listening, and that is my closure. I will attempt to answer any questions you might have about that history or anything else.
I will say that I'm not so sure the other commissioners knew that there was a letter sent, because it was authored by me, but Commissioner Savas and I worked on that letter, and just actually just opening things up for a conversation. I also note that I appreciate that TriMet quote, but TriMet wasn't around in 1947. That was Rose City Transit, and a very successful private company. So I don't know where they came up with
I think
that.
it says he was around. William Robertson.
Oh, is that
I
maybe
think it's giving him.
his lifespan,
not-
perhaps? I don't know. Oh, okay, in that case.
I wrote it down when I was in the tunnel.
What were you doing in that tunnel, Thelma?
I had gone to the zoo.
All right, thank you, Thelma. I'm sure we've got more people to follow in the same vein.
Thank you.
All right, so the next two are Mary Ann Paradise, I guess, this time, and Dave Adams.
Oh, here, I can take this.
Buddy?
Well, I would like to thank the commissioners for inviting us to come and speak to this issue that is really important to the community. The access road, secondary access road, is a safety concern. We've had one accident out in front of the Elks Lodge. Fortunately, the people were not killed, but their quality of life was impacted for a period of time, and it is a concern that that left-hand turn out of the Elks Lodge is going to increasingly be more dangerous. I've reviewed all my documents because we've had extensive conversations with TriMet, and they have indicated to us that the secondary access road is off the table. It was really never off the table. If you go back and look at the records, which I do have here, from the numerous stake meetings that I went to, we kept asking for the access to be over to Park. We were told that because of a grade change that this was impossible, and I've been in the construction business for over 35 years, so I looked at the plans and it appeared that there was a grade change. However, in the development of the property, somehow that grade change disappeared, and they've been using an access road from the back of the annex building on our property to Park Avenue through the entire construction. Now they're getting ready to landscape. I can't see any reason not to have our road there. It doesn't require a bridge, and so I would like this revisited again. They said we were paid for it. I have documentation. We were not. The vacation of that, of 27th Street was a part of the transaction, but the money was attributed to other parcels and was not attributed to the vacation. It was part of the process. Let's see. Again, we had to sign the documents and complete our transaction before we had a final design for any way out of the property and any way for the fire department to get in. There were numerous drawings presented to us. Again, I have the history of that. And at the end of the day, when they finally came up with a plan to get the fire department to the back of our property where our fire hydrant is and our suppression system is, we lost 20 parking spots. Yes, we did receive compensation, but not nearly as much as we should have received. Through the entire process, we were threatened with condemnation. At the second transaction, they started condemnation on our property. As you all know, the Elks Lodge struggled a couple years ago. We kept it alive. We got the community behind us, and we had new members, and the old girl's still there. However, we've never been rich, and yes, the TriMet money has been helpful, but it's a 60,000 square foot building, and it takes a lot to maintain it and keep it going. So at the end of the day, we didn't receive the adequate compensation. However, regardless of that, the access road, you really have to have two ways in and out, and when we originally started talking to them, they talked about having us use their driveway that came out of the top floor of the structure. It wouldn't have been a great solution, but at least it would have been two separate entrances. A right-hand turn grant you, but our desire is to have the access road coming off of Park. It's been on all the drawings, even through last September, and I have all that documentation too, that it is a possibility. I don't think it's a great expense. However, as a representative of the Elks, which I passed out the letter that I'm entitled to speak to this issue, we want this to be not at any cost to us, to bring the road to the edge of our property and provide us with that secondary access to Park to give people a chance to get in and out of our property safely. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Ms. Paradise, for coming and voicing your concerns. If the folks are concerned about a safety issue, then of course we are too. I have said at past meetings, and I got an email from somebody who misinterpreted what I said. What I said was we need to hear from the property owners, and you are it. And I want to thank you for that. Clackamas County did not negotiate any of this, and Mr. Ludlow has stated that a letter was sent. I'm not sure exactly what you want us to do that's within our ability to do.
Okay, well, that brings up a good point, because my question to you is, can you implement anything at the planning department level? And I'll sort of answer this from my point of view quickly, because I was the project manager on Oak Hills Presbyterian Church. And I know for a fact that plans can get changed, because at the end of the day, when we were done with the church project, we were over $400,000 over budget based on things that the county decided that they needed to have us do. So what I'm asking you to do is to look at the TriMet project and see if the access road shouldn't be put back into the plans, because on many of their plans, it's described as a future road, and that would be helpful to us.
You know, as far as our powers go, and I see Mike Besner, our engineer, in the room, which I asked him to be, just in case.
Okay.
I'll not call him forward currently, but the reason for our letter was we were missing an ingredient, that being the opinion of the property owner, as has been stated. Now we have that, and so Commissioner Savas is going to speak next, but I think it's time that we reconvene a meeting with TriMet, ODOT, and the Elks, and sit down as the county, and as far as I'm concerned, encourage them to do the right thing here. But again, the missing ingredient was an official statement by yourselves that you're willing to and anxious to come to the table and bring about a remedy to this. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I think it was our concern that make sure that in this letter that you submitted today, Marianne, indicates that you're authorized to represent the Elks, and that's exactly what we need. And the chair and I will work to try to convene a meeting with staff and whatever folks to try and see if there's a way to capitalize on the access that's there somewhat, you know, the road access, and maybe see if there's a reasonable solution to this. It's very interesting. I appreciated the article in the paper that was a couple, 3 weeks ago, and it just so happened right when that was, and that article came out, there was a very similar access discussion issue in Milwaukee for Riverfront Park. I think I shared with the board that there was a meeting just a couple days ago that I met with some of the people working on that project, and it would have, safety is always a huge factor, and I had my business on McLaughlin Boulevard for a long time and saw a number of safety accidents due to safety concerns about crossing at a non-signalized or trying to turn left on a boulevard, exactly the situation that you face. And to forego a signalized intersection or to compromise safety is something that's got to be carefully considered. And this is one thing, whether it's the Milwaukee Riverfront Park compromising safety, or it's the Elks Lodge trying to acquire back that safe passage out through a signalized intersection, is something that, you know, we ought to take a relook at that and make sure that we're not going to compromise that in the future, try to get that access back. But I think it's terribly important that we, especially at the higher speeds on the highway, look at a safe passage out of there and future designs. And I know that we have staff and DTD that focus on safety, and I know with the pressures and all the activity that's going to occur there, there's still safety concerns I have up on Oatfield and Park and down through the S-curves that go north into Milwaukee. And I battled for try to get as much sidewalk through there for the pedestrians, but my concern of that increased traffic flow due to the TriMet facility is going to really cause some problems. I'm just hoping that our traffic engineers have the wherewithal and the resources to make that safe, and if a little bit more resources going towards an access on a park through the back of the Elks Lodge would help, then we'll try and help see if we could get that to happen.
Well, I appreciate that, and that was the other question. Was there a traffic study ever done? When I lived up on River Road, I never went in and out except on Park. And it just was safer. And now that I live in Vancouver, Washington, I have to go out and make a left-hand turn to get home. So it's near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, there was a period in time there, I think, where any activity around that time when the measures passed with regard to light rail, whether or not the voters should have a say in that, and there was a perception that we were somehow trying to impede building that, when it was basically ultimately court ordered that, you know, that TriMet can build the project. And even though it was court ordered, I mean, I put up a lot of concerns and issues about the trolley trail, safety issues and so forth, and kind of held ground that, sure, we could comply with the judge's orders, we'll comply with the law, we'll comply with all these things, but, you know, we shouldn't handcuff ourselves, and we should still stand up for that, for all those accesses. But, you know, the property owners were individually dealt with TriMet. I'm not going to bash TriMet at all. I'm just going to say that, you know, if we can help lobby for those improvements, we should still do that and still abide by whatever was court ordered.
Well, and I appreciate that, because actually the footprint of the parking structure is on 27th Street, so they really needed to have it vacated so they could put the parking structure there, which leads me to say, then why didn't they relocate our access over to line up with their way in and out of their bottom floor of their parking structure? It's very simple. That's what they've been using now for the last 12 months. So they have created that.
I want to get back to the commissioner's comments. Commissioner Smith.
Yeah, just to follow up, I am concerned in your testimony, you said that TriMet threatened with condemnation. Do you feel that you were threatened to sign this agreement, or they would condemn you, and did you feel that your negotiating rights were taken away because of that threat?
Yeah, yes, I would say that was true. We did not have the money to hire an attorney. We had a guy that helped us. He looked at it, you know, yes.
Yeah, okay. Because my concern is, well, you know, there was the thought that, well, the Elks shouldn't have signed the agreement. Now they're going back on it. Well, if there was some undue influence on there that pressured some of you folks, and maybe the people signing the agreement says, oh, heck, just get it off our plate. I understand that. And that's why I think government needs to be more careful in negotiating with the public. Now, on a second note, Thelma and some other people had come in and complained about the adverse effect it had on homes and property owners besides yourself. I do not see I don't think any of those people are willing to come up and say, yeah, I don't like what they've done. So while people are telling us we need to do something, we can't do anything, I don't believe, unless the property owner asks us to do anything, and that's why your presence here today is so important. With some of these things that have come to light, we'll go forward, try to do something. I can't promise you what that end result will be, but we'll certainly be involved.
And I appreciate that. I was really surprised to see what Oatfield looks like, and I'm sure that's what you're talking about. That's an as-built, and I
Design
don't live
build.
there, but I think it's wrong. So
I mean a design build.
a design build, yeah.
Well, and as it was mentioned, you're in contracting, you know what redlining means. When they
Yes.
break out the red pencil, it makes a difference. Commissioner Bernard.
So I just want to add that you might invite ODOT to that.
Well, that's the design real quick, is Paul and I have talked about that we're missing that missing ingredient. And Paul and I will be glad to see if TriMet and ODOT would be willing to sit down with the owners, with these particular owners that have come forward and remonstrated, and Mike Besner and any other cast characters we can put together. We will attempt to put that together, but Paul has been pretty confident that we can bring all those people to the table. You know, one of my favorites.
Well, I think so too, because
Marianne, you got to let us finish.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I wasn't quite done.
Yes.
So I want to add that I had an impact on my property. TriMet did say they could condemn my property too. I mean, but I hired a lawyer, relatively inexpensive, who in the end, I was satisfied with my agreement. Now, I am not. I can tell you now that after it being completed, I'm not satisfied with my access, but I hired a lawyer and agreed to it, and so, I find it very challenging to continue in my business because of that impact. But I think that one mistake is the assumption that you couldn't afford a lawyer for a huge organization like them. They were not that mean. I was able to work out the details, even though they did say that in their first offer. They said, "Well, we can just condemn it," and I'm a supporter of light rail, and they still said that. So that's not uncommon. McLaughlin Boulevard, when we expanded McLaughlin, took out some old hotels and stuff along McLaughlin Boulevard. We had heard that all the time, places that were dissatisfied and were definitely impacted, and the city of Milwaukee at that time paid rather than go to court on a particular one, the cash spot, if you remember that. We ended up buying that property to satisfy the potential lawsuit. So, I mean, it is tough, and it is a huge impact. And you suggested the impact on nearby houses. The traffic impact is huge. My business was 1 year. A very negative impact, nearly 70% decrease in revenue, which was very challenging. However, I knew lots of people who had gone through the process, and they told me be sure and save money, which I did. But, I think that in Milwaukee, near the light rail station, property values have gone up substantially. And people are bidding to get those houses surrounding the light rail. So there is negative and a positive impact. Of course, when the economy was so bad and you couldn't get rid of your house, anything is better than nothing. So I hope we can work out something. I think that we have a very unique parking facility that far different from any in the TriMet's any facility they own. So I look forward to protection of a unique facility, but at the same time try to address the safety issues of the Elks Lodge. So I'm willing to participate in that discussion also.
So, you know, to coin an old phrase, we'll try to bring you to the table, because if you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. Thus, that is what probably happened to some degree. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
We will get a hold of you regardless, but we'll try to put together a meeting, a substantive meeting on this. Mr. Adams.
Thank you, Chair Ludlow. Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. Dave Adams, Stafford Hamlet. I was listening to the audio portion of your policy meeting on Tuesday, and I had the opportunity to come in and address some of the issues that I heard discussed at the time, and to also share with you my opinions and observations about where we're at in Stafford. At the top, I'd like to thank Chair Ludlow for showing up. Your presence wasn't lost on anyone. And additionally, I'd like to thank you for bringing to the attention of the other commissioners what a robust turnout we had. It's remarkable these days in vote by mail that you can actually get people to get out of their houses and come down. And we nearly set a record for voter turnout. But you know, I think what's perhaps more noteworthy is not just the remarkable turnout we had, but the consensus that we had. Both large lot owners and small lot owners reached an 85% consensus. And I think all of you can appreciate how hard it is in this world to get consensus on anything, but 85% is about as close as it gets. The last couple of times I've been in here, both Commissioner Bernard and Savas have opined between each other about the old system, and you both pointed out that in the old system of hierarchy of lands, conflicted lands and exception lands were always the first to be taken in UGB expansions. And therefore, you both jumped to the same conclusion that's somewhat incorrect, with all due respect, that therefore Stafford would already be in. Well, it's worth understanding that Stafford has a substantial amount of land that is not conflicted or exception land. There's a lot of EFU land there. But more importantly, under the old rules, you needed a willing service provider. And there never was one, and there still isn't one. So under the old rules, Stafford would not be in. Which brings me to the point of the vote. The folks in Stafford understand very, very well that to actually resolve this regional problem, this issue, is going to take compromise on everyone's part. And the fact that the large lot owners were willing to compromise and the small lot owners were really also willing to compromise, I believe represents a template for resolving this issue that I hope the county will be willing to consider as well. Because it's going to take compromise in from all of the stakeholders to actually move the ball forward. We understand the county wants employment land, and that was the biggest piece of the compromise for a lot of people in Stafford. Borland Road seems to make sense. The north area.
Go ahead, Dave.
The north area, there are many that can debate around whether it met the criteria or not for urban or not, but nonetheless, if the county can't see the wisdom of a compromise, the cities certainly are not. So the way I sort of summed up the situation to people that approached me over the weekend, everyone involved in this can get half of what they want or everything they don't want. If the county won't compromise, the cities aren't going to compromise either. And I don't know what the point is of putting employment land in a reserve that you're never going to touch. Perhaps a mechanical metaphor that you can relate to, the two of you that are mechanics. To me, it's like putting a reserve tank in a car that's a gasoline-powered car. It has no fuel line and no fuel pump, and you fill it with diesel. What's the point? Let's compromise. We can solve this problem. Thank you.
Commissioner Bernard.
So this is my problem. You know, you were involved in the designations of urban rural reserves. And in that process, the process was you're either urban or rural, and if you're not, you're undesignated. So a big process when, you know, many, I would say hundreds, if not low thousands of people were involved in the process. And the factors were applied, and the decision was made. And I think you would agree that factors were applied. You may not agree that the right factors were applied, but in the end, a decision was made, and certain areas were designated urban, rural, and if they didn't meet those factors, they became undesignated. And the suggestion that we could just throw out that process and change it to whatever, to undesignated, doesn't make sense to me, because it either met one or the other. So, I mean, I appreciate the vote and the expressed interest of the community, but to suggest that we just throw out everything and everything's back on the table really opens up a firestorm of possibilities that, for me, are worse than what the process was that was followed. And the court said that, except for one, Stafford factors were applied correctly, as well as if we go south of the Willamette, the factors were applied, and the process was good. So I'm concerned that if the process was good and the factors were applied, and the court said they were applied, how can we possibly just throw it out and start all over again? I mean, Pete's Mountain is a potential area for redevelopment. Should we throw out the factors? There's just so many bad possibilities. I think that and I went to many of those community meetings and heard about the vision opportunities that were open to the community, horse trails and all those things, which I was very supportive of, a different vision. It's kind of like Villebois at one point. There was an opportunity to create something very different. And I'm having just moved out of there and thinking it was very different, whether it was good or not. I'm concerned about just suggesting that after all that public process, we start all over again. It concerns me that it opens up a lot of bad possibilities.
May I comment?
Sure.
Well, Commissioner Bernard, no one is suggesting that we throw the whole thing out. This whole conversation began when the courts remanded that determination. And let me remind all of you that this conversation also started with your help after the remand, when you were invited out to speak to us and answer questions from the community about what the remand meant, in particular, what the remand meant with regard to our designation and the possibility that Clackamas County was going to be seeking their own grand bargain. Now, when Washington County struck their grand bargain, did that throw the whole process out and did they start all over? No, they didn't. So there is an opportunity to address this. I believe there clearly is an opportunity to address this without throwing everything out.
All right, Commissioner Savas.
Well, I understand that this is another one of those complex issues. And I know Commissioner Bernard was around and attended a lot of those meetings and was a commissioner when this was approved, and he's been closer to this than I have. But as a commissioner now, five of us, Martha's not here today, but all five of us now have to cope with how do we implement or what could we implement. And we're finding really errors maybe or oversights, and a lot of people put in a lot of good hard work on this. Hours, thousands of hours, and volunteers, a lot of them, to try to get it where it is. But to try and make it work, your analogy about a gas tank without no fuel line and no fuel pump, it's a good one, because it doesn't just not apply maybe in your mind in Stafford, but from my perspective, looking at the map, what can we pull out of there to implement? There's almost nothing. So there's a whole map We have 384,000, you had about 380 people vote in your area, but from the whole county's perspective and our responsibility and what the law actually said, what the law actually meant, and what the spirit of the law was intended to be, we didn't achieve it at the end of the day. So I'm what I would convey, and I think I conveyed to your group, and I conveyed to anyone who comes up to me, is that, you know, there's probably going to be a process, and everyone should have a fair opportunity at that process if there is one, and we're forced to open this up. Right now, it's in the hands of the courts and LCDC. If they put it back in our lap, then we'll have to deal with it then. But I do want to make sure that everyone gets a fair shot and no one gets a hand, you know, an edge up on this whole thing. So more to come, but probably next year. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Adams. Chips Janger and Les Poole, followed by Sherry Hall and Pat Russell.
Sherry left.
Oh, Sherry left. Thought I noticed.
Oh, I thought you did, sorry.
Noticed she was even here.
Chip asked me to go first. Les Poole, I hope that everyone takes the time to watch the citizen comments last week, where the survey for climate smart communities was brought up, and that dovetails into the issue that we just heard from Mr. Adams about, and this remand and this so-called grand bargain. I hope folks just take the time to go online and Google that and find out what really happened. And you'll see that common denominator with the grand bargain, with that process that started, as you indicated, Commissioner Savas, before you were even here. And here you are dealing with the outcome of that. There was a huge lawsuit over that, and Metro's urban reserve planning was overturned. Underneath every one of these fiascos is too much power and too much dominance from what I will call the culture at Metro. And I'm referring to transportation and land use planning, not recycling, not the parks aspect. They do fine with that. But it's obvious, we keep hearing about the laws or the rules or the things that the county has to abide by. And here we see cities and county folks, as Dave mentioned, trying to work together at odds, and then you've got the elephant in the room in the background that really created the problem, Metro. Interestingly, if one goes back, one will find that it was Metro that failed us at Damascus, not the mayor, not this group of disgruntled citizens that shows up at the council meetings regularly. Guess what? I show up there too, because lucky me, I own property in Damascus. Speaking of Metro and property, of course, who authorized the light rail line? Metro did. But did Metro exercise any real oversight of its drunken cousin TriMet? The answer is absolutely not. I'm not here to make any legal threats other than to say that this issue of the safety at the Elks and what you just heard from Thelma and Mariana came from people like myself with land use experience and common sense, especially when you live in the neighborhood, you know the traffic patterns, you know what's going on there. And you realize that the county is unfortunately, along with ODOT, attempting to accommodate a design that was based on a bad location in the first place. That was a can of worms. So my point is, you put a transit center not up on top of the hill at Courtney. You put a transit center at the first intersection south of Milwaukee, and you basically dump the end of the line there. And here we have the fire department and folks and people coming in and a design build. This is a project that was supposed to at least have 25% engineering done before they ever went out for an SDEIS. If you take a look at all of the records and you go back, you'll find that it's really sad that we got to this point. I have two very quick requests. One, I would appreciate if the county and if Mr. Madcore would review the vacation of 27th Avenue, where citizens came in and there was some concern about, now how is the Elks really going to get their access if that street is vacated? And the idea of making changes on a project of this scope at this point is not that undoable. Last thing is, I invite everyone, please drive down there at 4 o'clock like I did yesterday, pull in the Elks Lodge lot, and sit there and try and pull out on Park Avenue. Take a look at the median divider that runs all the way down 99, clear almost past the Elks property. It's a can of worms, and we'd appreciate any help you could provide. Thank you.
Thank you. Chips?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, thank you. My name is Chips Janger. I'm a citizen of Oak Grove. I'm here to talk about this issue that has been raised today about the light rail area. I think it's important also to kind of keep in perspective, and I know you've heard from citizens, many of our friends of mine who live there at the Elks, but it's important to keep in perspective that there have been hundreds of people involved in the planning of this. It's literally been an event that's pretty much unparalleled in the county. For the last 5 years, we have had literally hundreds of people involved in charrettes from the beginning for the design of this. This design has excited so many people in our community. When I'm talking about people who've been involved, I'm talking about people from neighborhood groups surrounding the Elks, the Evergreen neighborhood, the Silver Springs neighborhood, to the Fair Oaks neighborhood. I'm talking about our own CPO that has supported the design of this from the very beginning. I'm talking about people from Willamette View. I'm talking about people from Rose Villa. Everybody has been involved in the design of this. This design has been evolving over the last 5 years. It has created what will be one of the greatest senses of pride in this community. And when you guys come and see it, when it's planted, and we have a forest right there that used to be all blacktop and cement and old buildings, this is going to be one of the highlights of this community. Not only that, but this is going to create something that hasn't been there before. Our own trolley trail, which when it's finished, and it will be by the first of the year, will be a new arterial that will go through the community, that will connect up with the light rail station. Our own citizens will be riding bikes to the light rail station, putting them on, if they want, they can park them there or take them with them downtown to have a way of circulating downtown. This is going to be something that we've never seen before. This is not something that has just been planned by TriMet. This is something that was designed by our community, this whole area. That area there that they're talking about, the road that wants to be built there, that people have suggested to be built, is a very significant part of the plan of this area. It is a significant part of where the wastewater management issues are going to be filtered into this area. This is not something that is just simply arisen in something that has come up recently. This is something that has been planned for the last 5 years by members of my community and members of your county, many, many of them. So what I want to say, and the safety issue, by the way, if we're talking about safety, is when the arterial that I was talking about, the trolley trail comes in, that connection there with the light rail station, putting a road in between there creates a whole other safety issue that is not being planned on right now, because there's going to be pedestrians, there's going to be bicyclists, all people connecting the trolley trail and the light rail station. So putting a road right there, believe me, creates a whole other safety issue that hasn't been discussed here now. So review it, perfectly fine, acceptable. ODOT, this has been looked at and examined, and the safety issues are certainly within all the compliance that the county has,
Gotta
that
wrap it up,
ODOT has.
Chips. Okay? All right, thank you. We will continue, Commissioner Savas and I specifically, will continue to the dialogue. Listen, whenever there's a big project, and this includes a home, there are change orders. There's been plenty of change orders by TriMet on this thing, plenty of them. And if we aggregately feel that one more change order is in order, then we will do so, certainly with the advice of our engineer and the cooperation from the big two entities, ODOT and TriMet. We're not trying to, I mean, I appreciate that whole other communities have certainly gotten involved in this process. But we should look at, especially those most affected and closest to this. I used to use 27th a lot as an elk there. That was a safe and interesting way to go, and certainly provided, as was stated by Marianne Paradise, appropriate access to fire vehicles. I did not agree with the elk selling the conservation easement in the back that basically neutered the use of that property. I think we're going to take a very close and careful look at that, and Commissioner Savas and I will meet with the appropriate parties if they are willing to talk about how we can ameliorate some of the concerns of the citizenry. When somebody waves 140 signatures at you, we're bound to pay attention. So I appreciate your input today. Thank you. All right, and the last one, and certainly not least, is Pat Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm asking our clerk to circulate my letter, and attached to it is a rather detailed site plan that I couldn't convey to you earlier this week in an email, but I did give you a link. So this is the map that I was referring to, the site plan, so that you have that for your use. Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. My name is Pat Russell, R-U-S-S-E-L-L. I reside at 15989 Southeast Billquist Circle in Milwaukee, 97267. I live in the unincorporated urban area in the Billquist elementary neighborhood. I am here this morning before you concerning the Park Avenue Light Rail Station, the Park and Ride site, access to the Elks Complex from Park Avenue. Dear Chair Ludlow and Commissioners, I encourage you to facilitate an immediate arrangement between the Elks Lodge and TriMet that provides a service drive, and I emphasize the term service drive, from Park Avenue to the Lower Elks Complex. The TriMet contractor has already constructed the drive onto the Lower Elks Complex for their field office trailers. The county could administratively allow a minor site plan approval modification provided by Section 1309 of the Zoning and Development Ordinance. And I've provided the web link there to Section 1309. I'm not going to read it. Since December 2012, TriMet plans have identified allowance for some sort of extension of their drive leading from Park Avenue into the west half of the site to serve the park and ride structure and beyond. The most illustrative drawing can be found on their 100% preliminary presentation drawings in their PowerPoint on their 5th page at this particular web link. And this was a web link I believe was widely distributed in the community as part of the land use planning, not only for the park and ride structure, but also during the time of the county implementation of the TGM grant. I can get into that later. I'm circulating a copy of this plan before you. As you are aware, citizens of our community recognize the need for ancillary safe access alternatives to McLaughlin Boulevard. We trust that if properties south of the TriMet Park and Ride redevelop in the future, both TriMet and our affected public agencies see the benefit of a north-south secondary common access circulation system for safety, reduction of unnecessary traffic demands on the boulevard, and patron convenience. Common access ways are encouraged by our comprehensive plan and zoning regulations. In the near future, we are likely to see more specific site development goals and objectives in our station area. The TGM grant transportation and growth management efforts over the last few years was a first right step. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Just want to say, Pat, thanks for the drawing. I think that is probably the best drawing I've seen yet, but I never had access to any of them, but that really captures all the facilities around that area, so appreciate that.
I do want to apologize to the commissioners. I live 3 miles away from this, and I was not participating in the station area studies that went on for the last 18 months to 2 years by our county planning department, which included TriMet, Metro, ODOT, et cetera. But I did go through, and it convinced me that there were conversations about future development in the area, and I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the consent agenda. So I'll ask the clerk to read the consent agenda by title.
Okay, the consent agenda under Health, Housing, and Human Services, approval of an intergovernmental program performance agreement with the State of Oregon Department of Education Early Learning Division, approval of amendment number 2 to an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority for the Adult Mental Health Initiative. Under elected officials, approval of previous business meeting minutes. And under the Development Agency, approval of a contract with HDR Engineering, Inc. for consulting services for engineering design and construction plans for the Boyer Drive Extension Project. And also remind folks that they can visit our website and see the packet with all this information, and they can also look at past packets.
Excellent. And so commissioners want to remove or pull any of the items? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Commissioner Bernard, seconded by Commissioner Savas to approve the consent agenda. Further discussion? All right. Mary?
Commissioner Bernard?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Chair Ludlow?
Aye. Passes 4-0. So show me that pink on you again, because I don't see any. Oh, the shirt itself. Okay, well, I'll forgive you
And a
then.
little bit in the tie, too, so.
It's that exciting time again when the county administrator gives an update.
Yes, I just have a couple of quick items here for you. But let me just take a quick moment. I do believe that Council Madcore has some guests here. Is that correct to introduce?
Put him on the spot.
We do have a couple of guests, actually, Commissioners and Chair Ludlow. We have Andrew Everson and Colin Burge, both sophomores at Canby High School. They're in the back with Anya Mundy, and they are interested in county government and the law as well. And I thought this would be a good opportunity for them to sit in and see both in action.
Welcome.
Nice.
Great, thank you, Mr. Madcore. I have congratulations to share with you for Mr. Jay Wilson, who works in our Department of Emergency Management. He's been appointed to be one of 9 experts nationwide from both the public and private sector to provide guidance in the drafting what would be national updated disaster response guidelines for U.S. communities. Nice. These experts provide independent expertise to staff what's called the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is an agency of the Department of Commerce, the U.S. Department of Commerce, in identifying and developing standards to better prevent natural and human-caused hazards from becoming full-fledged disasters. Jay is representing the field of emergency management and response, and of course he's worked for Clackamas County here for 6 years as a hazard mitigation coordinator. Interesting statistic is that natural and man-made disasters have caused an estimated $57 billion annually. And in fact, beyond that, there have been some incidents in American history that individually have exceeded over $100 billion in damage. So the work that Jay is engaged in is incredibly important, and we're really proud to have Jay participating and leading in that effort. And while we're on the subject of emergency management, I thought I'd share with you that yesterday I attended a table exercise involving what would happen if we had a 6.9 earthquake here in the metropolitan region, and how we would respond to what would be expected fuel shortages in the area. It was an excellent exercise. We were joined by representatives from the State Department of Energy, Transportation, and State Emergency Management to help work us through there. Raises a lot of interesting thoughts and questions about how we'd be best prepared to make sure there is an adequate fuel supply to serve emergency response needs, as well as the needs of citizens and businesses here in the county in the event of just such a disaster. That's part of a series of tabletop exercises that our Department of Emergency Management has been conducting. I'm scheduled to attend 2 additional ones in the very near future, one having to do with debris management, and then another having to do with circuit court operations. All of this is in anticipation of what will be the county's participation in a Emergency Management Institute training that occurs in April, where some 75 local leaders representing both public and private sector will be participating in an exercise that is put together by the Federal Emergency Management Agency for us to learn from. It is a week-long training effort. It is paid for by the federal government for our participation in that. I have participated in that training in past years. It's excellent. It's really going to be worth our while to participate. The tabletop exercises that are currently being scheduled and conducted are going to help us be more effective participants in that effort. So
Great.
that's my report for this morning for you.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas, time for Commissioner's communication.
Well, I just want to talk a little bit about traffic, and last week and the weeks past, we've been talking about effects of traffic congestion, and I had a conversation recently with some folks about emergency vehicles, and maybe some of you have watched some of the meetings from time to time. I said, I might have mentioned an experience where I was stuck in traffic and behind me was an emergency vehicle trying to get through a congested road, and they were stuck there for, I thought, from an emergency standpoint, an inordinate amount of time, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 seconds. It could be determine whether or not someone lives or dies if that's the case. So as we talk about this issue and talk about the benefits or compromises that it relates to toxins and air quality and carbon dioxide, I think we also need to realize, as we're a growing metropolitan area, that the need to right-size our highway system, not to cure congestion, because you can't cure congestion completely, but you can manage it and manage it responsibly. So as I go into Monday's meeting about the ACT process and we talk about representation, I'll be trying to make sure that in future conversations we bring that to the attention, because it is an issue that actually has been studied by some of the fire districts. Tualatin Valley Fire especially, which is the largest one in the region, have actually been trying to cope with how they move or get to an accident or a home or an emergency when the roads are congested. Some of their obstacles, oddly enough, conflict with some of our land use regulations or our traffic designs, where they said, we have these medians. In these medians, we typically travel in the medians, and now they're putting these large medians and planting trees. So they're compelled sometimes literally to jump the curb and run down these trees to get to an emergency. So that's, there's conflicts in how we engineer and design our roads, and so that has to be considered. The second thing, it'll be my last, was brought to my attention last evening. I didn't get a chance to grab the Clackamas Review, and I don't want to, I'm going to call up the news reporter. I think it was maybe an honest mistake. I'm not saying it was, but there was a reference on the inside page that somehow the interim position filled by Michael Reed at Wes was somehow an ousting, and it is so far from the truth. Michael is the director of the manager for Oak Lodge Sanitary District. I've known him for years. He does a great job over there, and frankly, he got the permission of Oak Lodge Sanitary to help fill an interim position at a tough point, because his wife lives in the state of Washington, and he only gets to see her a couple weeks. So this has been a lot of work for him, but he has helped and kind of got our sewer district back on its feet to some degree and try to sort out some issues. But it was characterized mistakenly that he was somehow left on ill terms, and that is far from the truth. He's well respected, did a wonderful job. I think everything he's done and performed here, I've heard nothing but positive feedback, and we were somewhat disappointed, but we had to respect his right. But he didn't receive a check from Clackamas County for this. I mean, the Oak Lodge Sanitary was compensated, but he didn't receive any extra remuneration, to my knowledge, about this. So I want to thank Michael for his contribution to try to help us in that short period of time. And Greg Geist, who's been here for a while, he's going to pick up where Michael left off, and I have a lot of confidence in him as well. So just want to make that correction for anyone who read the paper, that he's well respected, and should there be another situation like that, I would happily, be supportive of him assisting us.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I know about things in the newspaper that are being written and aren't true.
Well, those accidents happen, don't they?
I don't think mine are accidents. Thank you. It has occurred to me with this huge amount of rain that our driving conditions are rather dangerous, and we've had a lot of accidents yesterday. I came to a stop, and a stoplight, and I was the first one in line, and I slowly accelerated. Even at that, my back tires spun out, and I have new tires. So when rains come like this after dry periods, there's a lot of oil on the roads that haven't washed off. So I really ask folks, please slow down and respect the conditions, respect the fact that we haven't had a lot of rain to wash our roads off. Braking hard, turning down, and I was told that as much as 1/12 of an inch of water can cause your tires, your rubber, not to meet the road. And it helps if you slow down. It helps if you follow the track of the car in front of you. Don't necessarily go through the mud puddles like some of maybe our younger folks do, to cause a big, yeah, I know, you used to do that, didn't you? A big splash. And boy, I was driving down to Salem yesterday in I-5. And I drive it all the time, I literally could not see the road. And I'm familiar with that road, and the only thing I could see on the right is the big green ODOT signs. And thank God they were there, because you did not know where they were at. It was kind of scary. This board had a really interesting presentation this week from the Clackamas County Business, is it Association or Alliance? Alliance, yes. PGE commissioned a study from DHM research on people's preferences, where they're headed, what's important to them. Jobs still remains high on the list. Transportation remains high on the list if it affects their quality of life. And so it's just really interesting. If anybody wants to have a copy of that, it's out there. And we learned some very interesting things about that, what's important and what's not important. They interviewed people from Columbia County, Multnomah, Clackamas County, Marion County, and a little bit of Yamhill County. That is their service area. And they were able to share that with us. To me, the most telling thing is, because a lot of people aren't putting landlines in anymore, they acquired cell phone numbers, but it took as many as 150 calls to actually reach somebody. So it makes me wonder, when you hear these polls, and we hear all these polls out now, really how accurate are they if they really don't reach the people they're intending to reach? Or maybe the opposite is true. I don't know. Polling has always been a strange mechanism used, but we really don't have any other measure, I guess, to track what people are thinking, unless, of course, you come before our board and tell us what you think, and that is always very valuable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Bernard.
So the Michael Reed thing, I was surprised when I read the article, because Michael did a great job and the county was perfectly satisfied. Frankly, it was a shame he left. I mean, I'd love to have had him on permanently here. Yesterday I went to an H3S Legislative Candidates Forum, which I had no idea what it was. I expected candidates to be talking about, why we should elect them and stuff. Well, it wasn't that at all. It was more like speed dating for future or current legislators to run around, find out what people are doing, what their needs are and stuff. But one thing that I was a little bit surprised from one of the budget wonks at the state was the suggestion that, it's about time that you guys really start, instead of asking for more, do something about, how you're spending your money. And I had to say something. A very respected senator that I said, we've been doing that for years. This is my 6th year as a commissioner. I'm ending my 6th year as a commissioner, and we have never had any money. This is the best budget this year, and next year will be the best budget we've had since I've been here. And we don't go out and spend it all and think, wow, let's start some new programs. Frankly, we're backfilling what the state continues to cut from us. So I was kind of surprised, and I said, we've been doing this for years. We spend our money and don't anticipate getting more. Frankly, I've given up on the federal and state government. We have to do it alone, and we have to spend every dime we get the most efficient way we possibly can. We don't have the luxury of the state to, willy-nilly spend our money, which is what he suggested we did. But anyway, I hopefully I corrected him. This is, like I said, the end of my 6th year. Paul and I will be sworn in again in January, thankfully winning in the primary. But this is also my 3rd board as a commissioner. And I was not always I was often in the earlier boards before Paul came, the one no vote on many issues. If you look up the history, I was often the one no vote. The tree ordinance, for example, I voted no. And it was, in matter of fact, a number of times I was punished for voting no by the first chair. And so, I got to say that after our discussions today in the forum with former Secretary of State Bill Kiesling, in many ways, this group that I currently sit with is one of the better ones. We disagree, but there are certain philosophies that I'll never agree with John on.
Oh, here it comes.
But the other thing is that there have been many instances where all of us have got together and had some really great discussions and changed our mind or went in a direction that most of us agreed with. And I gotta say that I'm not always the oddball out anymore. And so for this 2 years, I've served with what I say is one of the better commissions. I certainly had great commissioners. I loved every one of them. But it's been very enjoyable, I say, over the last couple of years, to work with who I'm currently sitting with. So I just want to say that, Phil said that, I said to somebody the other day, I was speaking to Chuck Thompson. Chuck Thompson's a Republican, a guy I really like. And I said to him, it doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. It's all about your core values. And it's okay to have different core values. It's all about, you said it it's all about relationships. It's always about building relationships. And I look forward to the next 4 years working with the current board or a different board. We'll see. But just want to say I appreciate the last 6 years of having to serve the citizens of Clackamas County, and I look forward to the next 4. And after that, it will be 18 years in government, and I must be crazy.
Yeah.
We all are.
Yeah, we all are. But I got to tell you that in all those years, 12 years now, it's mostly been a great opportunity and a privilege to serve. And also, we have a new administrator, and I think Don, even though looks like a white shirt to me.
Thank you. I thought so too. Pink stripes.
I'm semi-colorblind, so yeah, it's been a pleasure working with you this year too.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
And Don just finished up his 1 year. Thank you.
Man, it feels like Thanksgiving or something, doesn't it? You know, it's a different, and here it's near Halloween, ironically. Real quick, that CCBA presentation, Oregon's Change Priorities, was very interesting for a couple of reasons, as Tootie Smith has pointed out. One of which is the level of trust they measured. So, environmental groups, down at the bottom. Big businesses, down at the bottom. Frankly, government, pretty much down there too. But the huge, overwhelming trusted entity was small businesses by a large majority. So that's interesting that residents would feel a great trust in something that's so local, literally, in small businesses.
Tell them what the gold standard was.
Oh, yeah, and don't you think so? The gold standard, as far as a trusted business, is owned by Les Schwab. And that's not a coincidence. They're there to serve you. They run to meet you. They're anxious to meet you and serve you. If we could only all be that way. And that's one of the things Mr. Krupp has brought forward to the county, too, is one of his first discussions with the executive management team was, we have customers. They call us. They walk through our door. Those are our customers. You can call them taxpayers, but it's beyond that. We don't care if they're taxpayers. They are interested in what we do, and we should serve them. So I've appreciated that approach. I went to the Health Centers Board meeting. This is a council with equal power of this commission that runs our health centers. It's a very important group chaired by a retired MD, but it's interesting to see that a lot of these people on this council are actually the users of our health centers, which are now recovering thanks to a plan written by Richard Swift and Cindy Becker of H3S. Tonight will be our monthly Clackamas dinner, hosted by my hometown, Wilsonville. I hope all of our commissioners can be there on that. I was able to meet with Chief Bob Morrissey of the Estacada Fire this last week. Last Friday, I'd asked to just meet with him and talk to him about the fire. But the greatest part of that was he took me in his Explorer with blue lights all the way from Estacada up past all of the burn, with blue lights flashing. It was really great because we didn't have to wait for pilot cars, although we were really concerned about the precipices, because what we saw along the road is logs and rocks. What's interesting is the pilot cars have cow catchers on the front. So they were blowing through. I mean, they had to get people that are behind them through that in case anything else fell. So that's what they're doing up there right now. Now, that will continue until spring, after ODOT analyzes the fall, the things falling, whether they're still falling, and after a whole bunch of gully washers, of course, to bring that stuff down. But there is dead trees hung up on other dead trees up there, and as the rains flow and the dirt is dislodged, we will see more. ODOT is going to have a crew take dead trees from the top of that precipice, because those are the most dangerous ones. As those erode, they will fall too. So they're taking a proactive approach. But this is an expensive enterprise, and my concern is for Estacada, having fished that area since I was able to get a driver's license, and before, is that it's going to greatly affect the economy of that particular area. There's a lot of recreational people that love the Clackamas River, further up, all of the Clackamas River, that are going to have to put up with residents only currently. And so my queries have been about when will they lift that and allow recreational people to go up there as well. I know they want to be safe, and I certainly respect that, but I'm very concerned about the vitality of that area, because every time I ever went fishing up above Estacada, I stopped and bought something, usually food, does it show, on the way up. So anyway, that was very interesting. Something happened in the Stafford area. We often get correspondence from the public, and I got a ton of it. We all got a ton of it from, because of Stafford, of all things. The Stafford area had Parsons Farm had a location selling vegetables and such, and it was on the southwest corner of what is now the roundabout. Now, it was there for a long time. Before that, it was a feed store for a long time. And all it takes sometimes is one complaint, and one complaint came in that they were operating illegally. Now, we all know we have rules here in the county, and we encourage people to abide by that. Unfortunately, now we've got 14, 15, and more correspondences that Parsons Farm should be allowed to stay. Now, what happened was when the roundabout came about, it took out the rural commercial that was located there and where Parsons Farms was located and operating. When that happened, the parcel was gone. Next to that is rural residential farm forest property, and they were located on the same corner. However, they were located on S&H Logging's property. Now, we all hope that, first of all, S&H Logging should know the rules, and second of all, Parsons should too, especially Parsons Farm, every day, every Thursday, including today, located in the building next door to us, selling farm produce. So it was, they weren't busted per se. Understand that the complaint came in April. I'm just explaining this so somebody will understand that the complaint came in April, and they hired an attorney, and the attorney basically stayed the action by applying for a conditional use permit. They were knowledgeable that they applied for the wrong conditional use permit because it was cheaper, and it was specifically to stall it. Now, our code enforcement are pretty good people, and they have expressed that they'll be allowed to finish the season at the end of this month. We are encouraging them to take the correct actions and locate it on correct properties so that they can be legal in their operations. But we support farm stands. If Martha was here, she'd give us a good lecture about that, right? So we support the farm stands, but everybody knows you got to play by the rules, and they've been allowed to continue, and I'm happy because of that. But it is not the county's onerous big bullyism that we would eliminate a farm stand. They just have to be properly located. One of the rules out there is on our FF5 property, which that is that you really need to sell produce produced on that property, and that's not the case here now. They're selling pumpkins, I think, here at the last part of the season, and that certainly is appropriate. Phil Keesling this morning, fascinating speaker, as has been said earlier. One of the things he said his students said is politics. The definition is same. Poly, Latin, means many. Ticks are bloodsuckers. So, those of us sitting in the room go, what are you going to say to something like that, right? I have convened for quite a period of time now a meeting I call the Chair and Mayor's meeting, where we just close the door and talk about things. I'm going to have that this next week. I've enjoyed our frank and candid discussions, and similarly, Metro President Tom Hughes invites all the regional chairs to a meeting where we talk about regional issues, and that will be this next week as well. And now it is, it is time, Mary, for the next and final this calendar year BCC Town Hall meeting. That will be on Wednesday, November 12th, 2014 at the Happy Valley City Hall from 7 to 8:30 p.m., located at 16,000 Southeast Misty Drive. Is that appropriate for today or what? It's a misty day in Happy Valley, hosted by Happy Valley Business Alliance. Now, a shameless promo. The Fear Asylum has been held for many years at the Milwaukee Elk, and it is awesome, and they do a great deal of preparation for this. It is $13 per person, and it is tomorrow night and the next night, and then finalizing on Halloween, which is the 31st, I believe, and the next day. They'll be there the next day. It's kind of got a funky color on there. I didn't realize that.
Here's the calendar.
So, yeah, if you want to find out about that, you can go to Fear Asylum Haunted Attraction. That's a long one. FearAsylumHauntedAttraction.com. But if you want to be scared, and they have a kids one too, so the kids don't have to be as scared as everybody else. She's tapping on one of my great talents, right? I tie balloons. I don't care what people think. I like it. The kids do too. So anyway, that is a great attraction in Clackamas County, and certainly for a benevolent organization such as the Elks. So I encourage those people that are interested in that to do that. And finally, on your screen is a list of pumpkin patches in Clackamas County. You can also find out more information at this link, pumpkinpatchesandmore.org. So you can see on there that there's a large variety of them, and it seems like at my house, every time I put out a couple, at least one of them is smashed the next day. So, they're no fun at all. Thanks for mentioning that. I'll be at your house. Anyway, so if you're interested in attorneys, oh my gosh.
Attorneys?
Attorneys, why? Well, I looked up here and I saw AV-rated attorneys. What's that on there for? Attorneys?
It's a banner ad.
Oh, it's an ad. Oh my gosh. If you want pumpkins, forget the attorneys, Yeah, I think that's appropriate. So anyway, that's the word from Lake Wobegon. Commissioner Savas?
I do have one thing, another, I guess a shameless plug. For those of you who are driving down McLaughlin, whether it's the Elks Lodge, you're going to the Fear Asylum, or whatever it may be, and you're noticing that the bomber, the B-17 is being dismantled and taken down, they're restoring that plane, and it's going to be a long project, and they're trying to do what they can to raise money for that. But please don't be mistaken. They're not closing. The Bomber Restaurant and the museum are all still in place, and some people have mistaken that the fact that they've taken it down, that they're closing. They're not. And I just want to acknowledge the Scott family for their contribution to the area and all the events that they hold there at the museum on behalf of veterans and people interested in all the great things that they do. But they're going to try to restore that plane and hope to fly it as a family. So just wanted to let people know what's going on over there.
That's appropriate. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your patience and your coming here today, and those watching on TV. There being no further business before the commission this day, this meeting is adjourned.